I will never forgive Seth Rogen for this mess. This series is a perfect example of everything I've been talking about. Why men should not be able to tell women's stories. White people should not be able to tell Black, Indigenous, and other people's stories. But white men in general should stop making everything. Because this is one of the most insulting shows I have ever seen. Not only was it 8 episodes, which is stupidly long to tell this story, especially when the main character is the villain that we're supposed to have sympathy for. But the fact that it's a comedy, you can make tragedy into comedy. But I'd argue that that is reserved for the person whose story is being told, not the offender. Not only did Seth Rogen and all his pals, including James Franco's brother, get Emmy nominations because of this. And it wasn't even good. This was honestly like painful to watch. Wasn't funny, wasn't accurate, was unbelievably misogynistic. But for those of y'all who did not know, where did they come up with this idea? Why did they decide to make this show? You may not realize now because it's been scrubbed off of IMDb. James Franco, the Predator, he was behind this. And then after he got called out by this amazing woman who I'm going to get to in a minute, they removed his name from this project so that it wouldn't look bad. But this was all his idea, him and Seth and their buddies. These 3 have been collaborating for years. And now this guy can't be attached to things. It's kind of bad press when your best friend is accused by a long list of women for predatory behavior for SA, including teenage girls. And just so y'all know, before this man was publicly accused, I was a part of a women's comedy group in LA, and we all knew about this man. If this was a secret for a long time, watch out for this man, especially if you're young. Whisper networks are the only thing that women have. But okay, he didn't know about it. Okay, sure. 35-year-old man sending 17-year-old girl text and asking her to meet him in a hotel room. Like, this is a whole video in and of itself. I just wanted you to know the foundation of this show being made. Then I want to show you an example of how much Hollywood puts stories about women through the lens of the predator himself, so that we can empathize with him. And he's not such a bad guy. It's sick, and it makes me so mad. I will never watch anything with Seth Rogen in it again. I can't forgive him for this. I already was annoyed with him, but now, I'm straight up convinced he's an enabler, and he's just as guilty as his buddy James or whatever, and all the other people he's probably covering for. He also used to be best buddies with Jonah Hill. Birds of a feather. So we start off the series with this scene. And if you know anything about screenwriting and storytelling, the opening scene sets the tone. The opening scene is actually super important. Sorry, that was my dog moaning if you heard that. He's hungry. This is the opening scene. Oh, he's just a construction worker trying to make his living. And this is what Pam is doing. Pam and Tommy are having wild schmegs in their mansion. And this poor man is just working so hard. Oh no, he hurts his hand. Oh, his life is so hard. And then this is the end of the opening scene. Poor guy, works so hard, gets hurt on the job, having to work at a mansion with a rock star and his beautiful wife. He's also super successful, having schmecks. I kid you not. The framing of this, I knew as soon as I saw that opening scene, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hate this. The only reason I watched this mess was so I could criticize it. And it was so much worse than I ever imagined, especially because Pamela Anderson did not give them permission to do that. In fact, she was very much against it and vocal about it, and they didn't care. It's a story that needed to be told. More importantly, it needed to be told through the point of view of this poor construction worker who just needed to, some money. The only victim in that story was Pamela Anderson. And the way the show treated her was so insulting, so disrespectful, insulting, and damaging in every possible way. After that opening scene, we cut back to just trying to do his job, steel construction, and look what Pam sang. This insatiable, even the way they're framing her, so dehumanizing. They are wanting you to sympathize with the little incel here. I swear to God, was this written by an incel? It sure seems like it. Then again, all the movies that this guy's in is all about the poor dork who can't get the girl and then somehow gets the girl because dorks are entitled to the hottest woman in the room. Anyway, that's another video. And then, of course, we have this man, and he is the antagonist. Now, as much as I do not like this Tommy and all that he did to Pamela, this was still his stuff that was stolen. He still went through all of that with her. She suffered all the consequences. He did not. But we're supposed to hate him. He's the antagonist. Seth Rogen's character is the real victim. Remember, they're very intentional about their casting. This is Seth Rogen's character in most movies. Why not make him a predator? A adorable predator. How can you get mad at a face like that? Especially when he's being abused by the real bad guy. Then we're supposed to root for him because, you know, he is the everyday man. We want justice for him. Tommy's treating him like crap, and I'm sure Tommy did. Tommy's exploiting him, even took his tools. He's in so much trouble because of this Tommy guy. The scene is maddening. Just the way they portray her. She's doing like, as if she's taunting this man. And the way they make her such a ditz. Like, seriously. They're making her look like she's taunting him. And then we see in his apartment, he's got a whole stack of bills, poor guy. Oh no, his TV doesn't work. And he has to put frozen peas on his hand because, oops, he punched a hole through the wall. So relatable. Poor guy can't get a girl. He has to watch Corn and we have to watch him. And then one day at work, he goes in the kitchen and he surprises Pamela. He didn't do anything wrong. He runs away and she's like, Tommy! As if she's sicking her husband on this man. He's poor guy's just a victim, just a misunderstood Inchmel. Seriously, he's making this face for like half the film. I'll understand the importance of imagery. How can you be mad at a man like that? We know who the real villain is, remember? Don't forget the real villain. Anybody would do this in his position, right? And if that wasn't enough, he runs out to his van and we get a flashback. Because oopsie, he peed himself. What's that about? Oh, right. He once was a little boy just trying to play with his train set and his daddy took him away from mommy, forced him into a basement where he couldn't leave. We can relate to men being afraid of their dads, right? That explains all this. Dad was also a ladies' man and was mean. So we now have our origin story. We'll justify everything this man did to Pamela so that we have just as much sympathy for him, if not even more. Because this grown man who pretty much ruined Pamela Anderson's life and was responsible for basically half the world essaying her by watching something without her consent. His dad was scary and made him pee himself. So we get it, you know, any man in this position would do that. As a writer who's also written screenplays, who's also worked in the film industry for many years, I'm a professional storyteller and writer. Please believe me when I tell you that the point of view that the audience is supposed to get behind is so critical in any story. And their very intentional choice to make him the person we see this story through their eyes forces us to empathize with the predator. Whether we want to or not, they're trying to force us to empathize with this poor little boy who peed himself and then as a grown man with, you know, justifiable anger that we all root for because everyone wants to flick off the man. Not only was this story grossly inaccurate, this comedy had a scene of Tommy talking to his Literally, they had a prosthetic. Props department had to work real hard on that. Totally necessary scene. We're talking about the exploitation and the ruin of a woman's career. A woman who is a survivor of SA as a child from two different people. Yeah, this seems like the great framing. Another intentional choice was the predator's ex-wife. They roped her in to make him more likable, when in reality, she was already remarried. They were divorced, and he was crashing on a friend's home. Ugh, God. So, Pamela never smashed anyone's car. But why not add that to make her look crazier? Also, he was not a victim of assault from an investigator. That little detail and all the ways that this poor man had to work so hard to get this thing out into the world that would destroy a woman. Gosh, we're rooting for you, man. We hope you get it out there and get your fair pay. By the way, this dude never went to jail, never had any consequences for stealing that safe, exploiting Pamela Anderson, and ruining her career and her financial stability. I'm not saying that she's not doing okay now, but as her sons say in her documentary, her story, which is the only one that should have ever been told, her son said that the release of the miniseries itself is going to impact her future. As her son Brandon said, she refused to sign over rights to this video, even though it ended up being released anyway. She never wanted to profit off of her own exploitation. So not only did she not make any money off of this thing that other people made a fortune off of, she sat back with nothing and watched her career fizzle into thin air. She was in debt most of her life. And what is the poor victim of this story, Seth Rogen's character, doing? Oh, he's living in Santa Rosa, California, where he grows and will tell anybody who listens that he's the guy who stole that tape. This is his claim to fame. This is the most important thing he's ever done. And he has no shame about it. I'm running out of time, but this piece right here is a must read. And I'm going to dig into this in the next video. Like, comment, share, support my work if you like it. Justice for Pamela.